Meat City, baby.
Hello and welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with another 1000 Gamerscore report, and today we're talking about Star Wars Outlaws. This is a third-person action-adventure game. It's similar to the Jedi Survivor and that trilogy of games, but instead of a Jedi Knight with lightsabers and force powers, you're kind of a young Han Solo. You're a scrappy outlaw, and you use improvisation and stealth and kind of tricks in the combat rather than kind of brute force and overpowered force abilities. There is a lot of controversy about this game and whether it's good. A ton of people hated on it when it came out. I waited a little bit to play it till some of those early bugs got worked out. There was a reworking of forced stealth mechanics to remove the forced aspect of it when I played, so I didn't quite have those day one headaches that some people had. And yet other people absolutely love this game and will defend it to the ends of the earth. I'm going to come down somewhere in the middle. It's a bit of a meh game to me. The world is absolutely amazing. It may be the best representation of the Star Wars universe that I've seen in a game. It is absolutely fantastic. It feels, when you walk into a cantina on an alien planet, you feel like you're in a Star Wars cantina. So absolute kudos to the game for that. It really nails the feel of the environment, of the world, of a Star Wars world to the degree that I haven't seen in another game since. It far surpasses the Jedi Survivor trilogy of games in that regard. However, the gameplay itself is a bit of a groan. It has some jank, as you can see in the background here. I'm trying to call my speeder, something that, you know, should be very quick and easy to do, and it just doesn't work. You can call it and it won't show up, and sometimes when it finally does show up, it wants to speed to the location you were when you first called it 30 seconds ago, so then you have to run to it. And there's a lot like that where it's just like, come on, that's an easy thing, and you kind of screwed it up. It's not broken, it's not bad, it's just grown. It's just not quite there. And this is a AAA game, it shouldn't have those issues. Speaking of that speeder, oh my god, the speeder may be, in this game, it may be the worst vehicle in any game that I've ever played. It handles so poorly. It has some cool moments when you get it upgraded and you can kind of jump and speed boost and do those things, but it handles terribly, and you have to, you can fly, you can float, you have a repulsor lift, you should be able to have extreme maneuverability, and yet it's like steering a garbage truck. It doesn't steer well, it doesn't steer precisely, and if you bump into something, a rock or whatever, you go flying off of it. I can't tell you how many dozens of times, whether just traversing or whether in a combat or a chase sequence, you know, you're driving and, I need to make this turn now, and I clipped a rock because I couldn't turn very well, and my character gets flung off of the bike, and, you know, disaster happens. It's such a bad vehicle. I don't know how they took one of the coolest vehicles, which would have some of the best capabilities in terms of maneuverability, and made it into the least fun experience I've ever had driving a vehicle in a game. And maybe I'm wrong. I've been playing games for a long time, so maybe I've forgotten some really bad ones. If there's a worse vehicle you can remember, give me a shout out in the comments and we'll reminisce about that together. Similarly, the ship combat, I don't remember a less appealing Star Wars ship. God, the ships in Star Wars, I love them. They're great. They're so varied and iconic, and their abilities are cool and their look is cool. And the ship in this, the Trailblazer, it's a box. It's awful, and the combat starts terrible. At end game, when you have all of the abilities, it's a little better, it's a little more engaging, but it always just kind of feels blah and random, and it doesn't feel like there's so much skill involved in abilities, and it's just, you know, do your shields go down? Yeah, maybe. If you get hit a couple times and a ship is on your 6, your shields go down, and then you start taking hull damage, and then maybe you can repair it and jet out of there, but it doesn't feel like you're skillful or you're applying your knowledge. You're just kind of like, did it work this time? Great. Did it not? Okay, I guess I'll try again. And I don't want to dump on this too hard. The main point of this review is for the achievements, but the lip sync voice acting is the worst that I can recall. Like, I don't need good graphics in a game to enjoy it. I love games like Stardew Valley, pixel sprites. Like, you don't have to give me high fidelity to enjoy a game, but if you do realistic looking characters and you can't match up the mouth movements to the verbal dialogue that they're they're giving, that they're delivering, it's jarring. It takes you out of it. And so there's so many cutscenes that are beautiful. The environments are cool. The aliens look cool. I don't have a problem with Kay's character design, but she speaks and her mouth is off from the words that are coming out. The mouth movements, they don't match to such a jarring degree. And again, a similar game, Jedi Survivor, got this so good. How can it be so bad here? It's so bad to the point that it was distracting. But enough of that. Let's move on and let's talk about what we're really here for, the achievements in this game. The base game has 49 achievements to get that 1,000 gamer score. And there is a first DLC that is currently out. It's called, I believe, Wildcard. It adds 4 achievements for another 200 gamer score. And those are all story-based. I think they're like unmissable type achievements. So an easy additional 200 gamer score for that DLC. There is a second DLC planned as of the time of this video. I think it's supposed to come out in June of 2025. I would imagine a similar set of achievements, but they haven't been released, so I don't know what they are. But if the first one had a certain setup, they're supposed to be part of the same season pass, then you can likely expect similar achievements for the second one. If you enjoy the gameplay, if you enjoy the story, you should get the DLC. It's kind of the first one was a fun little side quest and a side romp, and there's some interesting characters in it. And again, the achievements have absolutely no hurdles, no bearing. They're just an extra pickup. So if you like the game, yeah, you should get the DLC as well. So what's involved in getting the achievements in Star Wars Outlaws? Well, it's a lot of exploration and it's a lot of collectible hunting. It took me about 30 hours of solid gameplay. You can definitely cut that down if you skip a lot of the side quests, if you're efficient in what you're doing and you're not really worrying about exploring the story and figuring things out on your own. You can probably cut that down to 20-ish hours, maybe some change there, depending on how much of a power gamer you are. And yeah, if you do everything in the game, all the side quests, every location, even the stuff that's not achievement related, you're going to get up to 40 hours and maybe even more. One of the issues is it rarely feels like it's worth the exploration other than the achievements themselves. You're kind of unlocking cosmetics and crafting materials. There's no big wow factor. You never get like a new gun or a scope for your gun, or it's just these like little, sometimes it's a cool component that unlocks the next upgrade for your gun. So that's kind of nice, but do I really care if my cooldown on my blaster goes up 10% because I found this thing that I was looking for? Not really, right? There's no wow factor in that hunting and collectibles. So that's a little bit of a downer. The rest is jumping through hoops and then completing the story, right? Kill a certain guy a certain way, use a certain ability when it's all the way upgraded, because that's how you need to get that many targets in that amount of time. There's, do a power slide on your speeder for 30 seconds. Why? What? It's super weird, but okay. Inoffensive because it's not hard to do, just something you would never think to do intuitively during gameplay. It's completely artificial, which is a little weird. There are no difficulty settings, so that's nice. No multiple playthroughs are required. There's no online competitive PvP type stuff, so you don't have to worry about matchmaking or finding opponents or people to cooperate with or people to go against, so that's great. No missable achievements. After the story ends, the world opens up and you can continue playing, so you can go back and clean up any achievements that you've missed, which is very nice. And I didn't run into any glitches or problems unlocking the achievements as well. The hardest achievement in the game, for me, it's going to be There Is No Try. This is for just a measly 10 gamer score, and it is to get a high score in an arcade game, and that's a little bit misleading, and it's super frustrating. So scattered throughout the game on a couple of the different worlds, usually in like the starport or the major city, there will be these arcade machines, kind of like super old school retro, like a point and shooter or like a little racetrack one where you have to switch lanes to avoid obstacles. There's a couple different varieties of these games, and you have to complete them and then get a high score. And it's a little misleading because a high score, there's I think 10 high score places listed. When you complete the run, you get to see, hey, here's the top 10 scores. And you would think, okay, if I make it on that list, I got a high score. No, you need the number 1 high score. You need to beat the top score. All the other ones don't matter. So you have to get the highest score to take the number 1 spot on one of these arcade games. And they're really hard. As you can see, the run that I put in here of this arcade game, I had a pretty good run, and this wasn't good enough to get the top spot. So it took almost an hour, give or take, probably an hour of just this one game. I showed you the location. I think this might be the easiest one. If there's an easier game that you have discovered or that you found, let me know again in the comments so that people can try that one out instead. But this was the one that I thought was the easiest. But you have to be really, really precise. If you start your run and in the first 10 seconds you miss one of the ships, restart, which is nice that you can just restart quickly and easily. You don't have to finish the run and then restart or quit and reload. You can just bail at any point in the middle of a run. So that's nice, but you gotta be pretty close to perfect to get this high score in this mode. And for what? You get no reward, you get nothing. It's not tied to the story, it's not tied to Star Wars. It's just this like added little hoop to jump through to get this achievement, and it's really way harder than it had to be. Just getting anywhere on the top 10 board, that would have been fine. Then you have to practice a little bit, you have to be pretty good, you have to have a good run, you have to learn the mechanics, fine. But the level of precision that's required here was far too much to make this worth it. The most annoying achievement in the game, there's a couple that I could have picked from here, but I'm gonna go with punching up. This is a big 50 gamer score, so at least you get that when you complete this one. And you have to defeat each syndicate's capital ship while taking no hull damage. And so in the game there are 4 crime syndicates, and each one of them, there's ground combat and there's space combat. So when you're in space, you can find the syndicate's capital ship, and if you destroy that capital ship, there are 4 of them, and it's actually 2. Two of each syndicate has the same 2 capital ship. Like it's called like the Manta or something. So it's not 4 unique ships. It's just 2 of them twice for these 2 syndicates, and then another one twice for the other 2 syndicates. But the way that you have to do that with no hull damage makes that way worse. Whether you take hull damage, as I talked about earlier, ship combat is kind of random and janky, and you don't have like a ton of maneuverability, so you have to fly in and make an attack run on these ships, and you have to deal a whole bunch of damage to them while they're shooting back at you. And you can dodge a little bit. Again, once you're fully upgraded, this gets easier, but your shields can fall really quickly, even fully upgraded. And there's gonna be other fighters and stuff out there. So when you find the ship and attack it, doing it with taking no hull damage is a bit tricky, takes some luck and some RNG. But worse than that is finding the ships is also RNG based. They only show up in a couple of sectors, like the Hutt one only shows up at Tatooine, and whether it shows up isn't guaranteed. It's a random spawn. So you have to like trigger the spawn, and again, there are some ways to trick the game into doing that more quickly, but otherwise you have to jump out of a sector and jump back in, tons of loading screens. Is it here? No. Okay, jump out, jump back again. Is it here? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna do the run. I took hull damage, jump out, jump in. So it's super annoying. It's random. It's random whether they show up. It's random whether you get the hull damage or not. And then you have to do it 4 times. And so just all bad. It's just all bad. Not fun. Not a great achievement, and definitely my pick for the most annoying. But with all that said, we're going to wrap up with the score, and I am going to give Star Wars Outlaws a 9 out of 10 for the achievements. Despite some of the complaints and some of the negativity, these are pretty easy. It's not a ton of time investment, and there's not a ton of challenge, aside from a couple here or there. There's like 3 that are a little bit sticky, a little bit tricky, but that's it. Nothing's missable. Nothing takes a ton of like, oh, if you fail, you have to do this big restart. Again, the arcade challenge is a 60-second run, right? So if you fail it in the first 10 seconds, boom, quick reload. If you fail it right at the end, boom, quick reload. You lost 50, 60 seconds, not a big deal. So it has some quirks, some warts, some bumps, but they really don't ruin the experience. This is a great bubblegum game. It's a popcorn game, right? Play it for a week and you're gonna be good. You'll have a good time. You'll enjoy the Star Wars universe. It has its warts. It's not great. I didn't love it, but it was fine. I liked it. And the achievements, easy 1,200 here, or 1,000 plus the 200 for the DLC. I will be getting that second DLC when it comes out and making sure that this is complete. I don't think there'll be any more coming after that. The game wasn't too well received, so if you get to that point, you're probably good. You can probably put this one back up on your shelf after you've gotten that full achievement completion. So that's going to wrap this one up. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.